I need to share. Okay, good morning, everybody. Now it is time to start with our lectures. As you remember, we already started to talk about circulatory systems, and then we talk about the circulation and different circulatory systems in animals and in vertebrates. And today I am going to talk about vessels and about our heart. Okay, these are really important stuff. If you want to enter in medical schools or pharmacy or other health-related schools, you have to know the biology of humans. And once you enter, I mean, it is really is going to be complicated, because you have to know each single point of heart, okay, each vessels and their functions, okay. Now let's start with blood vessels. Vertebrates have three main type of blood vessels. These are artery, okay, and they carry blood from heart, and they divided into many smaller branch, which we call arterioles, and which lead to capillaries. Arteries which carry oxygenated blood, and we have veins, the second type of the vessels, which carry blood back to the heart from our body to heart, which is the oxygenated or oxygen poor blood. Blood is carried by veins. And capillaries are microscopic vessels that form network which exchange materials between blood and tissues. Remember, as I told you, capillaries are really tiny vessels, only one cell thick layers, and they allow exchange of nutrients, oxygen, carbon dioxide at these levels. Blood flow, as I summarize here in the last sentences, is started from heart into arterioles, the small, as a diameter small of big arteries, capillary, when exchange is occur at the capillary levels, and then they take the oxygen poor blood through the vein to our hearts. Okay, capillary are only, as I said, one cell thick for ready diffusion of materials. As you see, okay, we have here arterioles which bring nutrients, oxygen to the tissue. At the tissue levels, we have capillaries, and this is a junction between arterioles and venules. At these levels, the exchange of nutrients, oxygen, carbon dioxide occurs. Once these tissue around these capillaries, they take nutrients, and then they remove the carbon dioxide or end product, the waste, and this exchange, after this exchange is happening, the oxygen poor blood will come back to the heart and also to the lung in order to oxygenate it again. Okay, the walls of artery and veins have three layers, as we see here: inner lining or tunica interna, which is endothelial cells, we also call endothelium, and the second layer is middle layer or tunica media, which made up of smooth muscle cells, is really important because the, the construction of the vessels is doing by smooth muscle cells, and we have outer layer, which is tunica externa or connective tissue, rich in elastic and collagen fibers. Okay, as you see here, the different type of vessels, arteries, thick smooth muscles, okay? They have a thick smooth muscles, and also the blood pressure is about arteries, because these thick smooth muscles, they created a blood pressure in our body. Veins, as you see here, these large veins and these capillary, they have thin smooth muscles, and also they lower the pressure. Okay, once we have a thick smooth muscles, which created high pressure, but veins have smooth muscles and they lower pressures. Capillaries, as I said, they are only in one cell thick uh, um, layers, and they are um, able to exchange nutrient and gases. Okay, regulation of blood vessels is really important because smooth muscle in arterial walls control blood pressure and the distribution of the blood to tissues. And this regulation is regulated by our nerve system and endocrine system. Keep in mind, nervous system and endocrine system is really important because it is also related to sensory systems, okay, um, to respond any exchange, any change in our body, or for to the environment. The nervous system, endocrine system is important. Is also is responsible for blood regulations. Okay, vasoconstriction is a contraction of smooth muscle cells, and which reduce the blood flow and increase the blood pressure. On the other hand, vasodilation is a relaxation of a smooth muscles, uh, and which result in increases blood flow and decrease blood pressure. Once your vessels, arteries, vasocontracts, okay, which is done by smooth muscle cells, and it reduces blood flow and increase blood pressure. Okay, what is the blood pressure? Okay, this is really important point, because as a big health problem is high blood pressure, okay, and which is also a risk factor for coronary heart disease. Therefore, we need to be familiar with that. Uh, Blood pressure, as I said, controlled by heart rate and vasoconstriction and vasodilation. As you see in this diagram, this is a here we see, let's first, I mean, the sympathetic nerves, as I said before, stimulate heart rate and vasoconstriction, raising our blood pressure. Parasympathetic nerves, they slow the heart, induce vasodilation, and lowering the blood pressure. Okay, something which um, induce our sympathetic nerves, which means it increase our heart rate and increase our blood pressure. Okay, as you see here, is the systolic blood pressure in this diagram. Okay, the normal and systolic blood pressure is should be around 120, and diastolic blood pressure, it should be about, let's see, 70. Okay, blood pressure is the force exerted by the blood against the inner walls of the blood vessels. Once the blood is followed through our vessels, it pressure onto our vessel walls, inner walls, and make blood pressure. Is blood pressure, as we know, is measured by the sphygmomanometers, and systole, it has two parts of the blood pressure, systole and diastole. Systole is a ventricle contraction. When ventricles contract, they increase the blood pressure, we call systole. And diastole is when ventricles relaxation and decrease the blood pressures. Normal blood pressure, as I said, the systolic blood pressure is about 120, and diastolic is around 80 millimeter of mercury. And once the blood pressure is above 140 as a diastolic, systolic, and about 90 as a diastolic blood pressure, which indicate hypertension, which is a risk factor for cardiovascular disease. Okay, now let's talk about a perfect organs in our body, about heart. Okay, we know that the heart is a hollow muscular organ consisting mainly of cardiac muscles, and also is surrounded by a connective tissue which we call pericardium. Okay, the mammalian heart, as you see in these slides, I will give some additional information in a few minutes, but as you see here, the vena cava, the blue one, is the largest vein in our body, and aorta is the largest artery in our body, and also we have valve, are flaps of tissue, as we see here, that prevent backward blood flow. Okay, as I said, walls prevent backflow of blood. There are like swinging doors that open only in one direction, and we have 4 important valves in our heart. These are arterioventricular walls, which are between atrium and ventricles, and the one of arterioventricular valve is tricuspid valve, as you see here between the right atrium and right ventricle, and also we have a mitral or bicuspid valve between left atrium and left ventricles. Okay, between atrium and ventricles, we have atrioventricular valves, as the name implies, and we have also semi-lunar valves, which are aortic valve, as we see here, which is between left ventricle and aorta, and we have pulmonary valve, which is here between right ventricle and pulmonary artery. Okay. Okay, here is the circulation, blood circulation in our body is divided in two circuits: pulmonary circuit and the systemic circuit. Okay, keep in mind uh, the uh, the oxygenated, already oxygenated blood, which is oxygenated by our lungs, is come to the left atrium, and then left ventricle. From left ventricle is going to out through the aorta to our entire body, and then give its oxygen and nutrients to the body cells. And the oxygenated blood, which is blue color, is come back with vena cava to our right atrium and right ventricle. In order to be oxygenated, it should transfer to our lung through the pulmonary arteries. Here we have a pulmonary circuit, which is between lungs, our hearts, and the systemic circuit, which is between heart and our entire bodies. Okay, you see here in a big picture the pulmonary circuit. As I said, is started with the right atrium, um, and the oxygenated, which is blue, in blue color, blood is come back and through the vena cava to the right atrium and then right ventricle. From the right ventricle, the oxygenated blood should transfer to our lungs. It transferred through the pulmonary artery to the lungs for oxygenation, and then at the pulmonary capillary, this uh, gas exchange occurs. Okay, oxygen come in, carbon dioxide come out, and then oxygenated blood is come back through pulmonary venues, pulmonary veins to the left atrium. As you see, the blue color represent deoxygenated bloods, and red color oxygenated bloods. Okay, systemic circuit, which is a big circuit in our body, takes blood from the left ventricle to our entire bodies. Okay, uh, for example, to our legs, and it started from left atrium, come into left ventricle, and then is spread to our body through the aorta, right communicable, the common iliac artery, arterioles, to capillaries in order to transfer nutrients and oxygen to our body. Okay, now we have a 2 minutes video, which is really helpful for you. Sorry. Okay. Okay. I hope that it was helpful for you guys. Okay, the pathway of bloods, uh, as you understand from the videos, is really um, uh, complicated, but there are two main circuit: pulmonary circuit and systemic circuit, as I told you before. Okay, keep in mind and look at the arrows uh, in, in these figures, in these diagrams. Okay, in the systemic circulation, arteries are oxygenated, which is in red color. Veins are deoxygenated, okay, which is in blue color. Uh, but in the pulmonary circulation, arteries are deoxygenated, okay? These are a difference between systemic and pulmonary arteries. In systemic circulation, arteries carry oxygenated blood, but in pulmonary artery, in the um, pulmonary circulation, arteries, they carry deoxygenated uh, blood, which is differ from the systemic circulation. Okay, how the circulation is going on? As I said, once the oxygenated um, um, blood is come to our right atrium, is come, then enter into the right ventricle. From the right ventricle is transferred to our lung through the pulmonary artery and oxygenated there, and this oxygenated artery and blood is come back through the pulmonary vein, okay, into right atrium and then right ventricle. From right ventricle is this oxygenated and nutrient-rich blood is transferred to our entire body through the aorta. Okay, here is about the lymphatic capillaries. It is a distinct difference as circulation systems, circulatory systems, uh, is an open-ended system, and lymph, which is a fluid we call lymph, flow toward to the heart in our entire body. Lymphatic systems is uh, included lymphatic vessels. Okay, these lymphatic vessels are independent from our artery and veins, and um, consist of extensive network of lymphatic vessels uh, that conduct lymph um, um, and bring the lymph from our entire body to our heart. Lymphatic tissues, a type of connective tissue with a large number of lymphocytes, okay, and organized into the lymphs. Each node, as you see here in our body, is a of um, node of cells and is rich in lymphocytes, okay, and these are small masses of tissue that filter bacteria, harmful materials of lymphs, okay, out of lymphs, okay, and as we know, tonsil, thymus gland, and spleen are a cluster of these lymph nodes is really um, rich in lymphocytes, and these are a filtration for bacteria, harmful materials, in order uh, to kick out these harmful organism and fight against this microorganism and maintains our body in health conditions. Okay, lymph has three main function. As I said, lymph lymph fluid absorb excess water from tissues, and lymph vessels in the digestive tract, they absorb fats. As we know, fat isn't absorbed directly into the blood circulation. First is absorbed into the lymphatic system, and then later on is enter in our blood circulation. And lymphocytes cells are essential for human immune function, okay? Also to fight with microorganisms which invade into our body is really important function of lymphocytes. As you see here, these are, I mean, uh, as I colored, and these uh, each organs here are rich in lymphocytes and really important for our immune system or for fighting against the microorganisms. Okay, also there are different kind of um, um, let's say lymphatic nodes and tissues, as I said, spleen, thymus, tonsils, okay, adenoids, and lymph nodes. They are rich in lymphatic tissue in lymphocytes. Okay, okay. Interstitial fluid enters into the lymph capillary, where it becomes a lymph. Okay, and then lymph then flow into lymphatic vessels, as you see in these pictures. And at certain location, lymphs circulate through the lymph nodes, which at that place it's filtrated, and then the harmful materials, bacteria is held by this filtration by the lymphocytes, and then prevent the harmful effect of these microorganisms. Okay, and then lymph is returned to our body, to the blood circulation, bring the fluid to our heart. Okay. Okay. Lastly, let's talk about a little bit about the diseases of our blood cells and our heart. We know the cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death in the United States and in the other developed countries. And therefore, there are, I mean, a huge topics in our lectures about um, about um, cell blood disease and about heart cardiovascular disease. Okay, anemia is a deficiency in hemoglobin. You know that hemoglobin, which is a protein which is included in erythrocyte and carry oxygen from lung to our body tissues to our entire cells. Okay, and loss of blood or decreased production of hemoglobin or increased rate of red blood cell destruction, they cause anemia. Okay, also it means lack of intake of iron also may cause anemia, because iron is an important element of hemoglobin in order to bind oxygen and carry to our cells. Sickle cell anemia, as you know from the previous lectures, is a mutation in hemoglobin causes red blood cells to sickle to get a sickle shape, and also is diminish the capability of oxygen binding. Okay, there are many diseases of white blood cells. Leukemia is a form of cancer in which white blood cells, okay, um, and because in this case, white blood cells multiply rapidly within the bone marrow and crowding out developing red blood cells and platelets and leading to anemia and impaired clotting, uh, which is really bad situation for such patients. Okay, many other diseases about white blood cells are allergies, asthma, autoimmune disease, uh, like multiple sclerosis, we can say. Okay, and cardio, uh, some important cardiovascular diseases are um, um, uh, one of them is heart murmur, okay, as a soft hissing noise when the valve in the heart don't function properly, and myocardial infarction, which is most important heart cardiovascular disease. We also call heart attack, decreased blood flow due to the narrow coronary arteries, as you see in this picture below uh, on the right corner. Okay, narrowing of the coronary artery, which um, nourishing our heart muscles. Okay, it results um, in myocardial infarction because this narrowing is block oxygen to get to the heart muscles, and therefore the heart muscles is damaged and result in myocardial infarctions. Okay, varicose veins is a failure of the valve in the veins and result in swelling, as we see in these pictures. Okay, there are many technologies nowadays in order to diagnose cardiovascular disease in the hospital, in the health facilities. Okay, electrocardiogram and pacemaker, most common of technologies that we are using. Okay, electrocardiograms is about placing electrodes on the body surface and then record the heart's electrical activities in order to find out whether the heart is beating properly or not. And abnormalities in electrocardiogram indicate disorder in heart or its rhythms. Okay, and pacemaker, as we know that in our heart we have a nature pacemakers, which they produce electrical activities continuously, but in some cases when these nature pacemaker don't work properly, then we put artificial pacemaker in the body in order to provide continuous rhythmic impulses to the heart.